Responsible for more happy endings than a dodgy geriatric masseuse, it's the boys way out wide with 14 on their backs. You're watching Distracted Sports. Somehow get that like button down in the corner. And with the help of the rascals on Reddit, this is the top 10 wingers of all time. Some of you may have watched one of these greatest 15 videos already, but to you newcomers, the gist is this. I'm too lazy to come up with original video concepts, so for a wee while I'm relying on the old tired YouTube trope of creating top 10 lists in order to make some of that sweet content. I'm doing a top 10s in every position until we have ourselves the greatest first 15 of all time. Top 10 lists are always watchable, yet infuriating when you realize that some people have the audacity to have an opinion that differs from yours. Now, are these lists based on my opinion? Well, is Darcy Swain a fine upstanding example of how an ethical rugby player conducts himself on the field? Well, the answer to both of those questions is a resounding no. So, I went over to the rabble on Reddit and posed the question, who is the greatest right winger of all time? Number 14, that is. What I do is I tally the mentions and the upvotes to create the list. Now, a massive thank you to all those who commented, but there were a lot of votes for players who played on the left wing. So if you're expecting to see the likes of Habana, Campese, Roth, Rokothoko on this list, you'll be like every woman I've had a sexual encounter with. Sadly disappointed. To make this list, players needed to play a decent proportion of their careers on the right wing, and not just the odd test or game here and there. Anywho, right wingers, the speedsters on the end of the chain that thrill the crowds and sometimes defy the customary laws of physics. The fellas who get more glory than a random can-sized hole in a toilet cubicle. The mother-flipping right wingers, people. So without any more of my blathering, I'm happier than some deadbeat loser on a talk show being told that I'm not the father to present the top 10 right wingers of all time. Number 10, Nehe Milner-Skudder. Now they say the star that burns brightest burns out quickest. Now that's a good line to have up your sleeve in case of premature ejaculation, but also best describes the incredible top flight career of Nehe Milner-Skudder. 2015 was one hell of a year for our man Nehe. He came out of relative obscurity to have a brilliant campaign with the Hurricanes. He made every post a winner and managed to make the World Cup squad. To get an idea how hotly competitive getting into the 2015 team was back then, the outside back that was dropped from the team was none other than the brilliant Charles Piutau, who to be honest hadn't done anything wrong and himself was in great form. Nehe had a fantastic World Cup and scored one of the tries of the tournament against France in the quarterfinal. And bloody well, he scored a try in a World Cup final. Sadly for Nehe, he suffered a serious injury in 2016 and never quite returned to his former glory. He's currently applying his trade in New York playing the MLR. Number 9, Ray Mort, a player we couldn't fully enjoy on the international stage as many of his prime years came during South Africa's apartheid exclusion. But what we did see was pure class. Looking at his old footage, he looks like a professional player playing amateurs, and one that you could see that would thrive in any era, and especially during his professional age. Pure speed and evasiveness make him an ideal 14, but he was also a big strong fellow with power to accompany his pace. He had a very tasty in and out. Don't do a six joke, don't do a six joke, don't do a six joke, don't do a six joke. We saw the best of Ray during the notorious Springbok Tour of New Zealand in 1981. That tour, of course, is remembered for being one of the most volatile periods in Aotearoa's history, as an outraged Kiwi public demonstrated in protest that a team from apartheid South Africa was allowed to tour the country. During the tour, Ray was on fire, cutting the All Blacks to ribbons. He scored a hat-trick in the infamous Flower Bomb game at Eden Park. Sadly for him, no one ever mentions that, as no one can get past the fact a protester flying a small plane around the stadium kept dropping flower bombs on the pitch as the players played the game. Crazy times. Number 8, the Irishman Tommy Bowe. The man could strike like a sniper's bullet. His positional play was clairvoyant, and he had a knack just for being in the right place at the right time. He was a stylish and classy finisher on the outside, as slippery as an eel covered in Vaseline in the tackle, and had the footwork of an agile cobbler. He was a nightmare for defenders, and as reliable a teammate you could ever really have. In the open, he was as beautiful as seeing a mermaid getting freaky with a centaur. Tones, I'm not sure how that would work. I mean, they don't really even have genitalia. As far as I can tell, they wouldn't be bumping uglies. They'd just be like bumping like smooth bits. Yeah, also, would this be like a land-based or a sea-based lovemaking? Because I could see problems with both. Number 7, Cory Jane. The man with a fin so powerful and hard and stiff, you'd have to think he'd been feeding it a strict diet of Viagra and Cialis. Cory Jane was just one of those players that was a delight to watch and always seemed to be having so much fun out there. Spending his career outside the likes of Carter, Nono and Smith, it appears to be the cushiest spot in world rugby. Sure, he did benefit from that class talent on the inside, but Cory added so much. It was amazing how many times he went away from a game talking about the magic moment he produced rather than his world-class teammates. He ran incisive and brilliant lines and could carve up defences. He had filthy ball skills, including a lovely flick pass, and he was magnificent under the high ball. He was a lad's lad, a great partner in crime to Israel Dagg, and an all-round fun bugger. Number 6, JP Pietersen. He's a man who's often overlooked due to the fact he had Brian Habana on the other wing, but he had some bona fide quality to his game too. While researching him for this, I just realised how classy he was. He just made everything look as easy as getting lucky in a brothel. He never looked like he was moving that quickly out there, but he always just seemed to skin defenders with all the ease of a player who just knew he was the shit. It's often forgotten what a big man JP was, but he was an imposing, legit scary guy to try and stop, and was incredibly reliable and potent on defence too. He really made bad reads and was an all-round great player. Maybe the most underrated player on the list, but for those in the know, they know that this bloke was bloody good, you know? Number 5, Doug Hallett. If you were designing the perfect 14 in a lab, the first quality you'd put down after having a healthy distaste for front rowers is speed. And by the power of sweet, sweet Tom Cruise, he had it in spades. He was an age group sprinting star in New Zealand and had to choose between athletics and rugby. Luckily for us rugby fans, it didn't stop his need for speed. As they say, there is just no accounting for the stuff, and he made the most of it. Being an All Black and an Auckland Blues fan in the early 2000s, you just knew when he got his hands on the ball in space, a try was a certainty. This guy was a winner, and one of the few players to win major tournaments in the Southern and Northern Hemispheres, winning Super 14 with the Auckland Blues in 2003, and with Munster he won the Magners League and the Heineken Cup. Number 4, Sir John Kirwan, JK. This guy was mine and every child of the 80s hero. Even St. Richie McCaw of the Breakdown, New Zealand's greatest All Black, has gone on the record to say JK was the first player that he emulated in the backyard like all the rest of us. In all these lists, I get people expressing their disgust in the comments about the order, who was left off, and in this case, I feel like one of you. Probably due to him being a boyhood hero of mine, I would definitely have him as my number 1. But, as I've mentioned, this is a democratic system and the votes came out and he was number 4. But his size, pace and evasiveness made him a superb attacking threat, and he was just so damn pretty to watch. I mean, look at this shit. Damn, he was just so fucking magnificent. He's the type of guy that makes you sit up and take note when he has the ball in my hand. And I think he would be a great in any era of the game. And in truth, he kind of gave us the first glimpse at what a professional rugby player would look like. This World Cup winner is not just a hero due to what he did on the field, but he got a knighthood for the incredible work he has done in service to mental health in New Zealand. He's been open about his struggles in the media, and through his inspirational book All Blacks Don't Cry, helping people understand that depression is an illness, not a weakness, he's gone on to help thousands of New Zealanders. To any of you suffering in silence with depression, please speak up and get some help. Shot, JK. Number 3, Vincent Clerc. A special finisher, a freakishly skillful athlete, a man so evasive he could squeak through the thigh gap of a sumo wrestler. For a small player, he is insanely strong, capable of bumping off players and staying on his feet despite immense pressure. He would terrorise defenders and was a force to be reckoned with no matter whether he was playing for club or nation. An incredible defender as well, and pulled off some try-saving tackles regularly, and even big hits. He was a key man in getting the French to the 2011 World Cup, and was capable of pulling off big plays in crucial moments. None more famous than the time he broke the hearts of the Irish, scoring a brilliant try in the dying minutes of a game to prevent the Irish from getting the Grand Slam that year. Number 2, Goldie, Jeff Wilson. The man was an all-round brilliant athlete. I was first aware of him when he single-handedly won us a classic one-dayer against the Aussies playing cricket in 1993. And like he was living some sort of boyhood fantasy, he went from the national cricket side to only 6 months later making his debut for the national rugby side, the All Blacks. And he wasn't just any All Black. He was Jeff motherfucking Wilson. He was superb and had class oozing out of every orifice. So much class that his hair could hardly handle it and had to jump ship. Back when the NPC was a massive deal, Goldie was a key man in a great Otago side, securing wins over Springboks and also securing the 1998 Provincial Championship. He also played incredibly well in one of New Zealand's finest rugby achievements, winning our first series in South Africa in 1996. Damn, this chip and chase is as satisfying as farting after holding it in all evening after a first date. Believe it or not, after his rugby career, he got back into cricket and got selected to represent New Zealand again and played in the very first T20 International at Eden Park in 2005. Unfortunately, he couldn't find the form he had in his youth and he got absolutely pumped by the Australians. The Black Caps lost that game and Jeff Wilson became the only All Black to lose a game at Eden Park since 1994. Just before I get to the number one spot, if you like rugby and want to watch rugby, but you live in a place where it's hard to get coverage of rugby, go see the link in the description to Flow Rugby. They're an affiliate of the channel now, so full disclosure, if you sign up, I get a few shekels. Okay, that's over. Number one, it's the man with pistons for legs and footwork classier than Fred Astaire, the brilliant Jason Robinson. This guy floated around all outside back positions, but played enough at 14 to qualify for the list. He also scored a try in a World Cup final at 14, for God's sake. And he got the votes, so he's got the top spot. He was like the personification of finding money in an old pair of jeans. Bloody marvellous and always surprisingly delightful. He could just pull off magic out of nowhere when it seemed nothing was on. No one could tear through defences like him, and his broken play running was at times truly breathtaking. He was like a Dragon Ball Z character that decided to play rugby. There were just times he seemed to go like Super Saiyan God mode. His explosive speed off the mark is by far the best I've ever seen, and those quick feet were just bananas. He made defenders just look ridiculous at times, and for me is the greatest outside back England ever produced. There we have it, gentlemen, and the one or two ladies who are watching. Jason Robinson, you are officially the right winger of the greatest first 15 of all time. Congratulations to you, sir. If you disagree with this list, that is all good. Let me know in the comments below. Bring it. It's all good. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. If you enjoyed all my dick jokes, please like and subscribe. The next one will be on the greatest hooker of all time. And if you want to vote on that, check out the pinned comment below and it'll be the link to the post in the subreddit. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. You guys take it easy out there. Be kind to each other. Mwah!